So I decided to take a one-year sabbatical. I went to go work at FoxConn City in Shenzhen to see how bad it really was.
Oh, wow. So you really went deep?
Yeah, I did. And, after really embedding myself, I found there were certain quality of life improvements we could make.
Of course.
These workers, they usually share a dorm room with a coworker.
Yeah.
And these dorms can be a bit small, a bit run down. What I quickly found is that they love karaoke. So we installed KTV rooms on each floor to liven things up a bit.
Okay, that's a good start.
And that worked for a while. But then I started to wonder, how could we improve the drab, musty dorm rooms? So we decided the most cost-effective option was to start beta testing the Reality Pros on them.
Oh, interesting.
Now, when the workers go home at night, they can come home to a villa on a private beach. They can stay a night in a cottage overlooking Yosemite, or trip on ayahuasca and Joshua Tree. It's all about connecting ideas.
Wow, that's actually pretty dark. So is that where all of this is going? Some Ready Player One type of dystopian universe?
Absolutely, Jason.
This Week in Startups is brought to you by VRBnB, the virtual reality bed and breakfast. Ever get sick of paying those expensive cleaning fees using Airbnb? Then at the end of the stay, you still have to clean the place yourself? VRBnB is here to fix that. You can save on those cleaning fees because with VRBnB, each guest gets a VR headset that will project a clean and luxurious place, no matter what it actually looks like. You can stay anywhere you want in the world or the universe. Where will you stay next? VRBnB. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. Today we have a very special guest with us, someone who needs no introduction, Steve Jobs. Steve, great to have you here. This is a big deal. I promise I won't ask you to sign my iPhone.
I think I left my Sharpie at home today. Thanks for having me on the show. Let's just try not to give out my personal email this time.
Okay, fair enough. To be fair, if you were on Twitter, that would make you a little easier to get a hold of.
I'll leave that to the meme dealers.
No memes, huh?
Not today.
I guess we'll have to settle for your words of wisdom then. I know you stepped back from Apple over a decade ago, but we all know you're still involved to this day.
I guess you could say I'm there in spirit.
So what can you tell us about the upcoming Reality Pro headset?
Ah, yes, the elephant in the room. Jason, that's just fake news is all that is. Nobody wants to put a screen on their head.
Steve, you've got quite the poker face. I've always been a bit skeptical about VR. It feels more like a novelty item than a game changer. How is Apple going to change that?
Well, it's no secret we've been working on this for a long time. At Apple, we aren't in any rush to put out a mediocre product. We want to do it right. I think where companies have failed in the past is that they're trying to focus on building artificial worlds, the metaverse.
Ah, yes, the metaverse. So I've heard.
We think the metaverse is still quite a ways off. The Reality Pros are going to be a mixed reality headset. The core of the experience focused on augmented reality to enhance the way you communicate with the real world.
So what do you find is the most useful application?
Well, if your listeners can remember back when the iPhone launched, we didn't really know what the applications would be yet. First, we had to put something out for the developers and builders that would enable them to dream up the applications. The App Store and the developers were the catalyst for the iPhone ecosystem that we have all grown to love.
But with a $3,000 price tag, these headsets aren't going to be for the casual Apple user, are they?
No, not really. The Reality Pros are really for professionals. Imagine instead of traveling with these large, high-end monitors for editing film or designing, you have a headset with infinite amounts of screen space. With 8K resolution per eye, we're going to deliver the most beautiful workspace you could imagine. And it's compact, portable. You can take it anywhere.
So, I don't know about you, but I've tried the current VR tech and it's far from ideal.
Yeah.
First of all, it's clunky. It's uncomfortable to wear for long periods of time.
Yep.
It gives you motion sickness. At the end of the day, isn't it just more convenient to look at a real screen?
Sure. It might be easier to look at a physical screen in most cases, but professionals typically work on large screens. You'd need a whole separate suitcase to lug one of those around. Or you can always work off your MacBook with a smaller screen. But with the Reality Pros, you don't have to compromise. It's like fitting an iMac with an infinite amount of screens in your pocket.
Okay, that's an interesting way to think about it.
You see, I'm a firm believer that we have to cater to the professionals. That's what Apple has always done, and sometimes better than others. But we are here to enable the professional to create beautiful pieces of art for builders to make things that are meaningful and useful to the human race. Meta can go after the low end of the market, as they always do. And we both know at the end of the day, they aren't going to create anything meaningful from their tech.
Speaking of which, so obviously I've been critical of Apple's use of FoxConn. and the quality of life of these factory workers. I mean, this is the same place that puts suicide nets around their buildings.
Yeah.
I mean, can't we all just pay $25 more per iPhone and do something to improve their working and living conditions?
Well, I do appreciate the concern. This isn't an issue that we take lightly. So I decided to take a 1-year sabbatical. I went to go work at FoxConn City in Shenzhen to see how bad it really was.
Oh, wow. So you really went deep?
Yeah, I did. And, after really embedding myself, I found there were certain quality of life improvements we could make.
Of course.
These workers, they usually share a dorm room with a coworker.
Yeah.
And these dorms can be a bit small, a bit run down. What I quickly found is that they love karaoke. So we installed KTV rooms on each floor to liven things up a bit.
Okay, that's a good start.
And that worked for a while. But then I started to wonder, how could we improve the drab, musty dorm rooms? So we decided the most cost-effective option was to start beta testing the Reality Pros on them.
Oh, interesting.
Now, when the workers go home at night, they can come home to a villa on a private beach. They can stay a night in a cottage overlooking Yosemite, or trip on ayahuasca and Joshua Tree. It's all about connecting ideas.
Wow, that's actually pretty dark. So is that where all of this is going? Some Ready Player One type of dystopian universe?
Absolutely, Jason.
Speaking of which, what kind of biometrics is this thing going to use? I imagine you've put quite a bit of thought into that.
Well, I can't really give you any specifics on that until it goes live. But you'll have to keep an eye on the keynote tomorrow.
Oh, nobody's listening. It's just me and you. You can tell me.
Yeah, well, we couldn't quite keep this one under wraps. So I'd like to keep whatever secrets we have left for tomorrow.
Okay, you keep your secrets. We'll all be watching with anticipation. So that brings me to AI. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but it's been making some waves lately.
Oh, you mean Siri?
You're going to make me say it, aren't you? When is Siri going to catch up?
We tried with Siri. We're not going to give up on her yet. But yes, OpenAI has sure blown the floodgates wide open. AI is something that we wanted to approach with a lot of caution.
Yeah, so I heard that ChatGPT has been banned from internal use at Apple. Is this true?
Yeah, that is true. I have played around with it. It's a very impressive piece of technology. It's scary.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's still really early for all of this. We need to learn more about the implications of using transformers and giving these things massive amounts of information. We still don't know what kind of things OpenAI is going to do with this data. Obviously, here at Apple, we like to play things close to the chest, and if anything, we've got to put systems in place to ensure we maintain our privacy. That includes our user data.
So are you saying you guys are going to build your own model?
Well, I can say that we do have some interesting things in the works. Right now, we're going to start with health. I think that's where this technology can be most useful.
So Apple obviously has a lot of sensitive health data. I mean, one could think of some ways this
That's one of the first things we think about when we approach this. We purchased this company called Pied Piper, which has been integral to this process. We're able to take all of your health data, encrypt it, and obfuscate it across millions of other M-chip devices using middle-out compression. This data can only be accessed locally from the device that owns it. Accessed from any other device, it's worthless.
It's a shame. I actually passed on those guys. Let's just say they gave me a pitch that I will never forget. We'll just say they left it all on the table.
Well, you can't blame them for having the balls to do something like that. I think that's ultimately the moment we knew they had something magical.
Yeah, that's one thing I've learned, is to never judge a founder too quickly. It's a lot of pressure to deal with. So this health app AI, the name Quartz, has been floating around. Is it finally going to take Siri from being dumb to being an AGI?
Let's just say Blade Runner is coming.
Blade Runner confirmed. That's what I like to hear. Well, I know you have a big day ahead of you here at WWDC. Thank you for being so generous with your time.
Oh, no problem at all, Jason. It's always a pleasure to catch up.
And if everything goes well, maybe we'll be having our next conversation over the Reality Pros. Can't wait to check them out. This Week in Startups is brought to you by Hooli AI. With all the venture capital going towards AI startups, have you ever thought, I don't want to live in a world where somebody makes the world a better place with AI than I do? We get you. At Hooli, we are dedicated to making your dreams become a reality. Hooli, changing the world through decentralized large language models, generative pre-trained transformers, and machine learning algorithms. Come join our team today. Hooli. All right, folks, that wraps it up. Thanks for joining us for another episode of This Week in Startups. I'm your host, JCal AI. We'd like to thank ElevenLabs for putting this together. This podcast was generated by AI. It is for educational purposes only. The voice cloning was done by ElevenLabs. Images by Midjourney. Thanks, we'll catch you next time.